Loop Hero, a game made by Four Quarters Team and, well, published by Devolver Digital, is an interesting art piece in blunt terms about facing off against impossible odds in the face of oblivion. I love the intro to this game in particular because the game boots up in a black void. After a few seconds, you get a glimpse through a portal into the night sky above your home, Earth. It gives you a bit of ominous dialogue, and then after a few seconds, it just jumps you to a beautiful manor in a hilltop surrounded by a luscious countryside. And at the exact moment you feel cozy from the intro, BAM! Hits you with the hard premise right to the eye sockets. After a few seconds of this, it zooms in and you're confronted with a lich-like figure, pulling up the world as you know into the emptiness of the abyss. But, luckily, you made it just in time to monologue an aura farm at him as he looks down on you, no doubt wondering who in oblivion you are, as he then proceeds to cast you away like trash into the cold emptiness of nothing. But the drip must have been woven by the drip wizard himself. You suddenly awaken within the void, and what you see before you is just a simple road, and what you can assume is where you came from. At this point, it becomes painfully obvious this game seems simple on the surface, but I assure you, don't let the nostalgic NES art style fool you. This game came to play. As you travel down the road, it doesn't really take long for you to actually run into your first enemy. Now this is where my first amazing example of narrative interwoven into the gameplay shines. You don't just encounter this enemy, you remember it. And that sets the tone for the gameplay, well, loop for the remainder of the game. You speak to yourself for a bit, then you continue to travel along the path a bit further. And as you go down the path, you remember a solemn grove along it. And what I love is that at this point, most games just go, alright, main character drives everything, boom, world building done. But this game takes the time to set up a small breadcrumb that maybe you alone can't just return things from the abyss. And maybe like a small stone tumbling down the mountainside, something else you hit might catch and fall along the way. In this accumulation of colliding existences, you begin to build the world back around you. It's small at first, a rock here, a couple trees here, but it's still better than the coldness of the abyss. But luckily, it really won't take too long before that black empty void is filled. And as you progress going through all this, you get to the end of your journey, and you come to the conclusion that the path is circular. And exhausted, you decide to maybe retreat for a while and pick a spot, make up camp to regain your strength. Now, luckily, a quick log here, a cold stone there, and voila, the bottom of the barrel of civilization. Rested off screen, you throw yourself back into the abyss, but this time something is wrong. Returning from your rest, you seem to have remembered the core of your prior experience, but being human has its downsides, and your memory never is exactly as you want it to be. At this point, I really want to dive into praise to Four Quarters and say that they nailed the narrative to this game from the jump. The game is set up so well, and the atmosphere is relayed perfectly using the game's simple art direction. I say simple, but it's still pretty complex using this kind of pixel sprite. I can't help but feel that the zoomed out and detached camera, especially in the world view, while probably being okay, it does what it needs to do to supplement the gameplay, but in my opinion, it just kind of pulls us too far from the struggles of our hero. I'll touch up on that a little more later. And realistically, is done no favors by the game's combat. But before I get too far into it, the game does add another layer to its narrative. The old world is lost, but not truly forgotten after all. And the tragedy of being lost in a timeless abyss is that even the most noble creatures can kind of fall into their basic nature when deprived. This vampire is a phenomenal example of this. It tries as hard as it can to not hurt you. Like, it's a pretty solid premise that these are not really inherently terrible creatures, or at least you and the entirety of the world you accumulatively remember don't remember it that way. It really does a spectacular job setting up external stakes on kind of the course of the game that a lot of other games would have just glossed over, but slowly you do get to kind of see him slipping away. It's subtle at first towards the end, and then it just snowballs. And with the Count's sanity completely gone, he throws some otherworldly hands your way. In a way, it's tragic. You remember these entities, but they are not your perfect images you would want them to be. They are, as they are based on the core of your conscious understanding of them as a function of the world that you and others remember. This happens more than a few times throughout the game, and it's amazing because you can unlock these dialogues as you put your world together physically using the different materials that you collect and remember along the way. And there are quite a few of them at that. You run into another good example here with the harpy. Now, this is set up in a particular way. The screen probably gives away a little bit of what you need to do to get it done. But the conversation here is really interesting because it's basically the same one as the vampire one, but from the harpy's perspective, which sounds completely obvious out loud. It's two individuals speaking. But I just love the fact that they didn't just rehash the same thing. It is a creature that lives in a completely foreign environment to where you, as your original self, came from in the original world. It also has a pretty good touch on how, hey, you killed to do one thing, I killed to do one thing. We are at the same goal, but approaching it at two different directions. Mine is mostly just survival. Yours, I guess, is for the broader ideal, but it can't understand that. And I absolutely love that part about it. But, like the harpy says, as noble as your intentions are, in the abyss, it's either you or them. And oh man, does she choose them. And while she and the other remembered creatures really do try to put up a fight against you, whether it's for noble or just purely survival reasons, your determination wins you the fight. And as tragic as it is, you carry on. From here on out, you go a little further down each of the loops, putting more and more of the world together the more you progress. That's where the core of the environmental building really sets in, and you can get a lot set up. You have a pretty limited space in particular, but sadly, even with all your valiant might, eventually the inevitability of being overwhelmed is too much for just one mortal body to bear. But not all hope is seemingly lost. As you somehow manage to drag yourself back to your makeshift space you call your domain, you notice this time that there are others, and maybe, just maybe, you don't struggle in this abyss alone. Now, what I've shown you is basically just the introduction to the tutorial. I made sure that the spoilers were extremely light. I didn't do anything past the tutorial itself. But I really want you to know that as the game progresses, new layers really are added. You encounter other portions, and you and the entities you encounter steamroll your remembrances together, and you really do remember a load of other things, both the good and the bad. My only real critique on the narrative gameplay blending is the combat itself. While I think it does a pretty good job, I don't have any real major complaints on that one. The game does the environment and the gameplay portion so unbelievably well, but as you saw earlier, the combat is an auto-battler. It's really hands-off, minus the items you can use to upgrade that you get from slaying the monsters. And while that does its purpose for the sake of the game, I feel like having a more direct, or at least a more interactive approach to the combat through your character would have helped the game tremendously, as I would have really felt the struggle of facing the cold void through the struggles of my proxy, instead of just being a hanging sword of Damocles waiting to drop on my poor soul. Loop Hero is a simple game. It's a fun game. Is it a game for everyone? No. It's a very intelligent game, and it expects that you're intelligent too. It asks a lot from you, but still lets you get to the end if you just try hard enough. If you struggle, the game struggles with you. I'm not going to spoil too much, but the ending is absolutely phenomenal, and I do full-heartedly give this one a hard recommendation because it's a good game. And, you know, it's just interesting. I went back and I played through a little bit of it to get set up for this video, and I really got the feeling that every time I struggled through the loop, endless circles, round and round and round I go, I really didn't do it alone, and I had somewhere to go back to. And I felt like that in a weird way was kind of metaphorical to life itself, or at least my life in particular. That sometimes it really does feel like I'm just running around in circles, over and over and over again. But I always do have something to come back to, and in time, I can accumulate things and hopefully make it better, and it makes the next run a little easier. this is my first episode. Thank you. I'm still not 100% sure on the structure for all of this, but I really hope it went relatively well. I hope to see you guys in the next video. It's going to be over Celeste. I'll do a little more practice on this one. Or this next one, I suppose. And past that, it's been an absolute treat. Thank you. And one step down the journey further.